Hey everybody, it's Dr. Wood again, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about where do you find your research at, right? So you came up with a really good research proposal, you have your idea, you're going to change the world with this thing. Where do you go from there, right? So some things I want you to check out, some things I want to point out. A good place to always start is just Google, right? You can always just go there and starting as a starting point, right, to figure out some good ideas of kind of what's out there in terms of literature. There's always Google Scholar, which is another good, really good resource to point you towards some of that primary literature I've kind of mentioned in previous videos. So again, no reason why you can't use a little bit of Google Food to find some of your beginning sort of topics. Again, I would hesitate to go with things like, facebook.com/research, like maybe not so great. But certainly, reputable websites I think would be perfectly reasonable, especially like society websites and things like that. So if you're doing an infectious disease project and you Google something about COVID-19 and you get something from Infectious Disease Society of America, that's probably a pretty good resource, right? So you'll learn to pick those up. The other thing to note here is going to be Uptodate. So again, this is a really good way to start out in terms of getting more information about a topic. So let me go ahead and open this up here. And so of course, whenever you're going to these websites, you're always going to have to log in with your login here. So go ahead and log in. And then boom, we're here to Uptodate. So basically, and I'll try to make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see for you guys. So basically what we're looking at here is your starting point for Uptodate. You guys probably have been here before, so no issues with that, I'm sure, in terms of how to navigate to here. But let's say that we wanted to do a topic search. So here's a recent one that I did today. We're looking at acute complicated urinary tract infection, including pyelonephritis in adults. Let's check that out. Right, so we're looking at the topic here, and again, the nice thing about Uptodate, it's always written by experts, and the nice thing here too is you can actually click on their names and figure out where they work at, what their specialties are, and things like that. So you can at least know that you're dealing with experts here, right? So one thing that's nice about Uptodate. Again, make sure when you're referencing Uptodate, you want to know if you're using the actual article, include when it was last updated. This can be really important, especially if it's something that's fairly old, but they're pretty good about getting their stuff updated. Now, one thing I want you to know is when you're going through Uptodate, you may find some really good information. You're like, man, I want to use this for my paper. It's important not to just stop here at the Uptodate article, right? Because again, this is written by experts. Some of it may include their opinion, but frequently if they make a claim, they say something definitive, they're usually basing it off of a primary source. So for instance, here I can click on one and figure out specifically where does this come from. So for instance, this actually came from the clinical practice guidelines, and this was actually from a society set of guidelines, right? So that's usually going to be a pretty good source there, right? And so again, it's not just good enough to reference Uptodate. You want to go get the background on it, get more details about why they're saying what they're saying, and not just take it as rote fact, right? Make sure that what they're saying is actually backed up by the evidence. And again, you can always check for availability. Again, it's easy to go to Pubmed and then get more information on the article from there. All right, so here we're at the Pubmed page. Again, you can go ahead and usually find a link to the full text of it from this site here. Usually on the right side of the screen, you'll see full text links. Let's see if we can get a copy of this. And now that we're at the page, we can actually click on this PDF link here. And boom, here we go. We have the PDF. We now have the primary source. It's always a good idea if you're going to use one of these papers, make sure you at least save it, right? So go ahead and download it to your folder that you're going to have full of all of your primary references and whatnot. So this is a really good resource, right? So you start with Uptodate, but you dig deeper, right? You go down to their primary references. So that's always a good thing I recommend for people to do. Again, other things we can do, including going to the NOVA library. There's a ton of really good references here. So for instance, if you want to go down to your databases, let's see here. Go to my databases. Things like Access Medicine can be really good. Things like Access Pharmacy, maybe if you're doing a particularly drug topic or something. So there's a ton of things here, especially if you want to get textbooks and things like that. This is a really good resource, right? The NSU library is actually really good. I should know because I've had access to a lot of different university libraries, and these guys are actually really on top of things, which is nice. So other things you're going to be looking for include Pubmed. This is going to be a really good way to go and find primary references for things. If you're looking for a specific journal article, this is a good way to do that. You can even do broad searches too, right? So if you wanted to search for things like pyelonephritis, and then we'll get a list of articles, right? So again, you want to look for things that are recent, which is good. So for instance, here, boom, we have one from New England Journal of Medicine in 2018. That's pretty good. That's perfect if you're doing an article on acute bowel nephritis. This would be a great one to include here, right? Again, we'll talk about the relative strength of different journals a little bit later when we talk about impact factors, but you can rest assured that New England Journal of Medicine, it's a pretty good one. So that'd be a decent one to go ahead and pull from. And again, you can get the full text links over here on the right. Other things. So what if you can't find the article that you're looking for? So you have a reference, you're like, man, I really think this is going to be a good one, but I'm just not really sure how to access it. Pubmed didn't really help me out. Can't really find it elsewhere. Well, there are some other good links you can do to find what you need to. By going to this link here, you can find individual journals. So if you're looking for a specific journal, this is a good way to actually search for that. You can go to the site for the journal itself, go down to the actual year it was published, the issue, and find it there. That's one alternative. But again, we also have librarians that actually work for NOVA. So that's another really good resource too that most people don't think about. Contact the librarians. Even if they don't have it available in a digital form, they can actually send you perhaps even a scanned in PDF of the journal article, right? So there are options that are out there. Again, that can be another resource for you. So if you're like, man, I had this really good paper I think that would be awesome to include, I'm not sure where to get it, reach out to me and I can try to help you out too and see if we can find something, right? Anyway, so those are kind of the basics of where to find your research. If you have any questions, though, certainly let me know, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.